It just shows you the life that we've got so much to do at night. So much to do. You can just binge until 4 o'clock in the morning. That's unnatural. It's not right. The students who used to stay up and do sahar al-layali, that was exceptional. And that was useful. That was productive. People were with their wives, okay, that's understandable, but how long it'll be a wedding day with her every day? You're not going to spend binging 6 hours. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. Allah Most High says, so we are continuing with number 3, which is about sleeping less. Allah says, stand up during the night, but a portion of the night, half the night, or less than half the night. So do something at night time. And the way Mawlana Tanvi explains is very interesting. The verse commands standing up during the night. Why? Well, there's all the fada'il of that time of the night, right? That Allah is closest, He'll answer your call, and so on. But he says so that from the perspective of striving is because the lower self becomes accustomed to striving. This is one way to force it to get accustomed to doing things that it doesn't usually like. So deprive it of some food, force yourself to wake up at night when you should have been sleeping or others should be sleeping. That is good training. In this way, the ability of the lower self to submit to righteousness. The other thing is that I think one of the reasons why he doesn't mention the fada'il yet is because once you get used to that and you start tasting the pleasure of waking up at that and overcome your difficulty and your ego in that regard, then you will just do it out of pleasure because you won't find that kind of satisfaction and intimate discourse anywhere else. So he's saying, in this way, the ability of the lower self to submit to righteousness is strengthened and perfected. If you can wake up in the middle of the night, the daytime should become easy then to do things. That's the toughest part of it. Standing up during the night is most efficacious for bringing the lower self to submission. All forms of worship, be they supplication, recitation, prayer, or remembrance, be they external, zahir, or internal, batin, they're fulfilled in the proper manner during the night. Why? There's less distraction. This isn't, you could say, an precluding condition. You could do it in the daytime, but usually in the nighttime, there's less distraction, so you're able to go and take care of that in that sense. The meaning of proper external performance of act of worship during the night is the proper and correct recital of the words, since the time available is ample. Well, that's another thing. You don't have to run to your next meeting unless you have meetings at night. The meaning of proper internal performance of acts of worship. I guess our students who it's night for, and for them, inshallah, Allah Ta'ala make this their tahajjud. The meaning of proper internal performance of acts of worship is that during the night one derives greater pleasure in worship. I think that's kind of known. It's just something in the air. Allah's placed a barakah in the nighttime for worship like that. This is in fact what the tongue and the heart conforming means. The Sharia has ordered the performance of Taraweeh prayer during the night in the month of Ramadan because it envisages reduction of sleep. As fasting has its role in reducing food, the Taraweeh prayer has its role in reducing sleep. Allah wants you for that 1 month to really strive. As the change of habit in eating times during fasting induces mujahada, so too does the change of habit in Taraweeh. The general habit prevailing is to sleep after Isha. Not anymore. I think nowadays it'll be that it will replace watching movies and wasting your time doing other stuff and going out doing Taraweeh. Still better. The command of Taraweeh brings about a change in the habit of sleeping, and this changing of habit is difficult on the lower self. This is precisely spiritual struggle. But can you see how in this time and age, in the last 40, 50 years, we've become so unnatural because of everything around us? We're living an unnatural life. Because throughout the world, because they didn't have that kind of bright lights and entertainment opportunities, what else would you do after Isha? Mufti Shabir tells us that when he was in Malawi, probably 40 years ago, after Maghrib, they were dying to sleep because there was nothing else. It was dark, miserable. And he says, but we had to pray Isha, so we had to keep ourselves awake until Isha, parke soja, after Isha you go to sleep. It just shows you the life that we've got so much to do at night. So much to do. You can just binge until 4 o'clock in the morning. That's unnatural. It's not right. The students who used to stay up and do Sahar al-Layali, that was exceptional. And that was useful. That was productive. People who were with their wives, okay, that's understandable, but how long are you going to be awake day with her every day? You're not going to spend binging 6 hours. So this is precisely spiritual struggle. It's still beneficial because it replaces what wasting of time people can do in that time with useful things. In reducing sleep.
So what about when the night is really long, like us here in the winter?
Yeah, what about them?
So if Isha starts at around 6, then did they just used to sleep? Or
no, because that didn't apply to them. But by the equator, where a lot of these, not a lot of these people, but at least in Arabia and the places close, the Middle East, there it's much more mu'tadil. It's only a half an hour to 1 hour difference throughout the year. We're in a very high latitude, so for us it's difficult. So then we would just have to go with a timetable. And our Isha doesn't, our masjid doesn't have Isha, usually 5 o'clock anyway, or 6 o'clock.
I'm just saying people in the olden days before.
It'd be interesting of how people used to do that. There were no lights, so what did you do?
Yeah.
So they might have still slept early, I don't know. And then just got up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. It'd be interesting to find out, just do an anthropological study, a geographical study, historical study on what the sleep pattern of people were in these areas. In England, what they used to do is they used to actually wake up in the morning, non-Muslims, they used to wake up in the morning and have this 2-hour session in the night, in the middle of the night, and then they can have another sleep afterwards. So they used to wake up for tahajjud, but didn't used to pray. It was, if you read the histories, they used to actually wake up 2 hours. That's probably because they went to sleep early. So then they wake up and then they go to sleep again. That's really interesting.
What would they do with those flows?
They would do things. I'm not sure they had a meeting, or they would do certain things. It's documented. You can check it online.
See, it's called the biphasic sleep pattern or something like that.
It's something interesting. I've not looked into it too deeply, but I remember reading an article about it. In reducing sleep, the Sharia does not stop at mere wakefulness. So don't just stay awake, but instructs the observance of acts of worship during the time of wakefulness. Otherwise, I'm telling you, you can stay awake if you want to. There's lots of things to do. Allah praises, you can finish the whole of Ertugrul off in 2 weeks, if you go crazy. Right? Allah praises pious servants in the Quran. In the middle of the night, they ask for forgiveness. From chapter 51, verse 18. Elsewhere in the Quran, it is said that they are separate from their sides. No, they separate their sides from the beds, calling on their Lord in fear and hope. In other words, they perform the prayer during the night. The trend of the verse is inclusive of all forms of worship, hence it applies to supplication and remembrance as well. Furthermore, aside from the religious benefits of sleeping less, one's physical health also benefits. A lot of people say no, because I don't get enough sleep anyway. Why don't you get enough sleep? A lot of people who complain they can't wake up Fajr is usually because they don't sleep early enough. When you ask them, they're always complaining, you ask them, okay, what time do you sleep? About 12. That's too late for a lot of people, especially when the Fajr is earlier. That's too late. In the winter, it might be okay, but that's too late for people who can't wake up. Tell them to sleep earlier. Less sleep creates light on the face. Interesting. And his less is obviously comparative to 8 hours. Then it's probably about 6 or 7 hours, having a little nap in the afternoon to keep you going.
It's probably also a stress-free less sleep, rather than a very stressed out routine where you're having less sleep.
Yeah, that's another thing. And just in the timing, and this is, you can try this yourself, that the time you get sleep before 12 o'clock is much more valuable, fulfilling. I don't know what's there in the nature of that. But before 4 o'clock, you try it. Sorry, before 12 o'clock, if you sleep at 11, you're going to have a much more fulfilling sleep. You sleep at 10 o'clock, that 2 hours worth more than 4 hours after 12 o'clock, they say. It's like double. So that's just, Allah has created جَعَلَ اللَّيْلَ لِبَاسًا. nahara ma'asha. When you mess that up, it really causes a disturbance to your whole physiological state. The face of the one who performs prayer in abundance during the night becomes beautiful during the day. Excessive sleep is detrimental to the physical health as well. It reduces or stunts the capacity of contemplation, but this is talking about those who really sleep a lot. It's just people sleep less today, but they just do the wrong things to do that. This in turn brings about harm in both religious and worldly activities. A person given to excessive sleeping is never punctual. They can't be, because they're probably lazy in that sense. If they sleep a lot, how can they be punctual? It doesn't sound like that doesn't sound like the profile. Profile where a person likes to be punctual cannot sleep too much, except on certain occasions. You like sleeping a lot, it means you like lazing around, probably, mostly. So it's the kind of profile he's talking about. Allah Ta'ala make it easy for us. It's tough in these countries because we go to extremes in terms of timing. Somebody can sleep by about 11 to half 11, that's probably the latest.
So especially in these countries, isn't it more difficult to perform tahajjud, fajr, and ishraq? How did they used to do that?
They could do it in those days because they would have slept after Isha early, so they had enough sleep. Wake up for tahajjud. You look at Fajr Salat is about 5 something. So even if they woke about 4:30 or 4 o'clock, they would have had 6 hours of sleep from 10 o'clock. And if they slept at 9 o'clock, then they would have had 7 hours of sleep. Then they catch up in the afternoon. In England, it's nearly impossible other than the peak winter days to do tahajjud plus an ishraq. One has to give. So which one should it be? So I would prefer tahajjud plus fajr and then have a nap, because saying just that's 3 hours of wakefulness. 1.5 hours, 1 hour 20 minutes before fajr, 1 hour 20 minutes after fajr. That's 3 to 3.5 hours you'd have to be awake to get something done in there. So that's very difficult unless you're in Jamaat and that's your routine is like that, or you're retired and that's what you're going to do. Most people who are working, they're not going to be able to do that. So either do ishraq and do tahajjud at night before you go to sleep after Isha, or do tahajjud and your dua and then go to sleep, and if your time allows, and then go and then do duha, do ishraq later. To do both is very difficult, and because a lot of people tried and they fail, they end up doing nothing. So that's why I had this dilemma for years, literally for years, that I can't do both. So I finally have become bold enough to say just do one, because it doesn't work. For most people, it doesn't work. For those it works, carry on doing it. For those who it doesn't work for, then just do one. And for women, it's very easy to do, just wake up half an hour before Fajr time, do your tahajjud, quickly dua, pray Fajr, and then go to sleep. As long as they don't have to wake up very soon afterwards in winter for school or something. Because it's easy to do that. So everybody can adjust, but try to get two of them, at least one of them in, whether that be ishraq or whether that be tahajjud.
I guess qaylula would also help, where they used to do qaylula, and that made it easier. If
Qaylula helps, but we're not in Spain. Portugal, right? So where the system is built for that. In our country, nobody's going to pay qaylula. I used to be a research fellow at Cambridge Muslim College, and there was no place to do qaylula, but I made a contraption in my seat and that I needed it 20 minutes, otherwise I couldn't focus because I had a habit of doing that. So I'd get it 20 minutes, 20 minutes, shut eye, alhamdulillah, because it helps to waken up the senses again. The diets are another problem that create imbalance of vitamins and minerals in the body, which then create certain conditions of deficiency, which then cause you to sleep more, and or being weary. Even if you're awake, you're not productive. There's a number of factors. But just to talk about the tahajjud and that, this is the one way that I'm suggesting. And I would also say, I spoke to Mufti Abdur-Rahman about this the other day. I said, in our communities where we have several masjids, one of them should at least be the one that prays has the Fajr prayer at its beginning time. I know it's غير أفضل, but then I would think that Tahajjud is superior in its Sunniyah than the Afdaliyah of praying Fajr later in the Hanafi school. So this way, because that's another thing. You're awake for Tahajjud, then you have to literally wait 45 minutes earliest Fajr. So if you can have a Fajr within 10 minutes after Fajr time, then you've done your Tahajjud at home, gone to the masjid, prayed Fajr, come back and go to sleep. Right?
So
Of course,
IDA has that.
if somebody can observe the Sunnah and everything, great. Yeah, sorry.
IDA has that when Fajr becomes really early, they have it, especially when it's the holidays. So
Well, that's 1:30 or 1:15 in the morning.
Yeah,
That's a bit of a different case scenario. But I'm talking about throughout the year,
okay, yeah.
except maybe in the winter.
What would you say for us in terms of, because we have to do we have to do our Alif class in the evening, and then that sometimes carries on to like.
For students, they say you do student tahajjud, which you pray before you go to sleep and then you wake up. But that's if you're praying in the masjid. Otherwise, why would you wake up late? The benefit is that if you are doing jama'ah in the masjid, then you don't want to miss jama'ah because jama'ah is wajib. If you can do it at home, or if somebody's not close to the masjid, then they can still do the tahajjud. Because you're just waking up 15 minutes earlier and then you're praying Fajr straight away. The women's way of doing it. Otherwise, you do it at night and then you wake up for Fajr and go to Fajr.
I find it difficult to balance that with reading, work, writing, revising, stuff like that. That becomes difficult to.
You do the best that you can. So tahajjud after Isha is fine as well for a student. Okay, there you go. So you can think about that. Let me.
With the Rayyan Courses subscription, you'll gain immediate access to over 250 hours of exclusive video lessons taught by experienced scholars. Sign up now at rayyancourses.com to continue your journey. Your next lesson is waiting.